After the British line collapsed, chaos ensued as the Zulu warriors surged forward, overwhelming the disorganized and retreating soldiers. They flooded the British camp, cutting down survivors and capturing vital supplies. Zulu survivors reported an overwhelming rage matched with fear and horror, which totally encompassed their senses and forced them to stab everything which crossed their path.
So here's an account from a Zulu warrior. Unzuzi Mandla of the Uwe regiment says, "Our eyes were dark and we stabbed everything we came across."
At this moment, Mother Nature wades in on the battle, and incredibly, a partial solar eclipse takes place.
And after that, the British stood no chance. The Zulu warriors cut them down, and when I say they cut them down, as is customary, they actually disemboweled them.
Well, some of the mounted men made it across the Buffalo River into Natal, but those on foot were hunted down mercilessly by the Zulu warriors. But a few men, around 50 of them, did escape to nearby Rorke's Drift, a Swedish mission station about 17 kilometers away near the Buffalo River. At this time, reports were coming in that the mission station would be attacked, and the soldiers and wounded at the hospital there were going to be trapped like rats in a hole. 1,300 British dead, around 2,000 to 3,000 Zulus dead. The British were completely overrun at Isandlwana, and when the Loin of the Bull formation arrived at the battlefield, King Cetshwayo's half-brother, Dabulamanzi, decides to lead nearly 4,000 Zulus across the Buffalo River towards Rorke's Drift Mission Station.
So meanwhile, at Mission Station, what's happening?
So Lieutenant John Chard was in temporary command at Rorke's Drift. At about 3 p.m., 2 riders arrived there and start shouting that Isandlwana had been taken by the Zulus, who are now on their way to Rorke's Drift. Can you imagine the terror?
Now, I don't know about you, but that seems like a prime example of caught between a rock and a hard place. And here we are, barricaded in. So this is Rorke's Drift. We've got a hospital here with 39 patients in it. We also have a church and a storehouse, all needing to be defended.
So at around 4 p.m., Lieutenant Alfred Henderson arrives with 100 of the Natal horsemen. Remember, these were survivors from the Durnford force at Isandlwana. There you are. Chard tells him to stake out the Zulu advance and to possibly slow it down. So Henderson heads off behind Shiani Hill. 15 minutes later, gunfire, and Henderson's troops come galloping back. They're low on ammunition and demoralized about defeat. In fact, they've lost their nerve. So they flee, and I'm not surprised. I would have as well.
So how many British were defending the mission station, and how many do you think you'd need to fight against, say, 4,000 Zulu warriors?
There were about 150 Brits at the station, but nearly 40 of them were hospital patients. The temporary commander Chard realized he needed to use his engineering skills to create a fallback position on the one side of the station. He told his men to construct a wall of bags of mealie meal, and can you believe it, biscuit boxes through the middle of the defenses, making it possible to abandon the hospital side of the station if they needed to. His storehouse was obviously the priority because it held all of their reserve ammunition.
Hold on, biscuit boxes? Like this? I'm gonna pop these here.
Pack them tight. Army biscuits in those days came in 43-kilogram teak or mahogany boxes. Anyone who's had the misfortune to attempt to eat an army biscuit will attest to the fact that they're probably harder than concrete. So a 100-pound box of biscuits made a pretty effective barrier. Around 4:30, the lookout on top of the storehouse reported a large group of Zulus were heading their way. The British opened fire when they were in range, about 460 meters.
So this forces the Zulus to move around and attack the north wall. A few were pinned down by British fire, and others retreated to the nearby Shiani Hill.
Imagine seeing this Zulu army heading for you. Terrifying. And you're protecting yourself behind biscuit boxes and mealie meal sacks. Those British on the barricades were soon engaged in fierce hand-to-hand fighting. The hospital wall was too high for the Zulus to climb, so they resorted to crouching under the wall, trying to grab hold of the British Martini Henry rifles, slashing at British soldiers with assegais, or firing their weapons through the wall. At times, they even clambered over each other's bodies to get higher up, but they were driven back.
Clambering over each other's bodies, that's one of the true horrors of war.
Absolutely. Don't miss Battlefield South Africa, only on the History Channel.